Hello, loves. Welcome back to WitchyMarlaina's Ghost Adventures. I am your host, WitchyMarlaina. Today it is the end of an era. The last time we go into 50 states and 500 scariest places to visit, and today's state is Wyoming, specifically the Old Faithful Inn in Yellowstone National Park. And now the Yellowstone National Park spans a few states, but this inn is specifically in Wyoming. Oh my gosh. I had to end on a bang. I really did. Look how freaking cool this is. This is the Old Faithful Inn, and I am so excited to talk about this. Look how absolutely gorgeous this is. Okay. Now that I'm done fangirling over a building, let me talk about it. The Old Faithful Inn is a national historic place that was built between 1903 and 1904, and it was created with logs and stones and wrought iron that was locally produced. So that's why it took so long. This is a literal huge log cabin, but in hotel form, of course, and it is considered the largest log structure in the world. So I was like, focal points, huge stone fireplace in the lobby. There is a beautiful handcrafted clock in the main hall. It is just, when it comes to masonry and just imagine all that wood to construct this. That's why it took so long. It needed all of the materials to get it, and it, like I said, it was all locally used, so it wasn't like they were waiting for materials because it was all right there. Now, theoretically speaking, the Old Faithful Inn has some guests that haven't left yet, and I have two stories of ghostly women to share. The first one is the ghost in room 2. Now, there has been a story of a woman sleeping in room 2, and she was abruptly woken up and found a lady in 1890s garb at the foot of her bed. Now, she tried so hard to wake up her husband to kind of like, hey, dude, let's get this chick out of here. Look what I'm seeing. To try to make herself not feel so crazy. And he didn't see her like she did. And later on, he went to the activities coordinator, Linda Berry, and told her this story, and this story has kind of passed down from her since. Floating lady in 1890 garb. Okay. The hotel hasn't been up that long, but I can still see that period's dress still hanging around. The second ghost. This is a ghost of a bride. She is mainly seen in the crow's nest, and the crow's nest is really tip top of the interior part of the inn where the band used to play. So it kept the band in the rafters, but not where they could be an abruption or some sort of in the way of dancing down in the main hall. From what people have seen is they see a bride dressed in a lovely wedding gown, but instead of her head being where it should be, on her shoulders, people have seen her holding her head in her hands. They see her floating up the steps. Normally those steps are really creaky, and you just see her just floating up the steps holding her head. Now, there was a waitress by the name of Gretchen who also seen this bride, and in her encounter with her, the bride wasn't holding her head in her hands. She was kind of holding it underneath her arm. Now, this legend has some base to it. Legend starts with a daughter of a wealthy shipping company owner in New York. She was getting an arranged marriage and she wasn't having it. Very rebellious, she decided she wanted to marry an older gentleman who was one of their servants. Now, Daddy Dearest knew that this guy was bad news and was probably a gold digger, but she was very adamant on marrying him. And Daddy said this: you can have this dowry, but you cannot have any more money and you will not have a stake in our business. You'll have to get out if you marry this man. So, true love conquers all. Not really, but she did get married to him. And they went on their honeymoon to the Old Faithful Inn. Now, this was 1915, so this Old Faithful Inn was fairly new and very a destination for people, especially wealthy people, to go. And they stayed at the Old Faithful Inn for over a month. And the groom, he was a gambler. So yes, he took that dowry and he blew right through it to the point where they couldn't pay to stay there anymore. And this made bride very, very pissed. And she and him had a heated argument that, from what people have claimed, turned violent. And he slammed the door and left. Later on, they couldn't find her. They checked her room. They wanted to make sure she was okay. And they found her decapitated body up in the crow's nest. And from what I'm told, they couldn't find her head. So I'm wondering if she found it or she knew where it was. And the only reason they found her body up there was because that area, the crow's nest, started to stink. So she must have been up there a really long time before anybody realized that she was up there. What? Absolutely insane. Now, when it comes to other ghostly things, of course, doors open and close. And then there was one other crazy story that a lady was checking the fire extinguishers and one of the fire extinguishers rotated upside down and then rotated back in front of her. Still trippy. I get it. But the decapitated bride, that story is absolutely fantastic. Okay. We are done with 50 states and 500 scariest places. I feel like I have been engrossed in this book, and I have for a year now. But I am very appreciative of it. It has given me plenty of places to go and explore if I haven't already. But next week, hang tight, because I have a new segment and I'm so excited. It's still going to be kind of ghostly, but we're going to steer away from here, and it's a new book of mine, so I'm really, really excited to just dive into it. Thank you so much for joining me on my ghost adventures. I hope you enjoyed our tiptoes through the 50 states and but now it's time for something a little different. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.